The time is 1:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here's the news edited by Catherine Pereira and read by Chandima Veerakorn. The headlines. A decision should be taken to fill the existing teacher vacancies in schools. A midday meal program for primary school children will be implemented from this month. It has been requested not to send persons to Myanmar based on open visa. Minister Bandula Gunawardena says that 50 electric buses will be added for operation before the forthcoming Sinhala and Tamil New Year. Declaration of Assets and Liabilities Law to be amended. 400,000 tourists have arrived in the country during the past 2 months. WHO says the children starving to death in northern Gaza. Local stories in detail. Minister Cecil Premajayantha says that a decision should be taken to fill the existing teacher vacancies in schools. Applications have been called to recruit teachers, but the recruitment process has been suspended due to a restraint order in courts. This has been caused by some groups who have submitted a fundamental rights petition. The minister also said in Parliament that measures will be taken to recruit 13,000 teachers to schools of provincial councils and estates. A midday meal program for primary school children will be implemented from this month. 16 billion rupees have been allocated in this regard. It has been requested not to send persons to Myanmar based on open visa. Following continuous efforts made by the government of Sri Lanka, 8 Sri Lankans out of the 56 trapped in cybercrime centers in Mayawadi area in Myanmar have been rescued by the Myanmar government authorities and are currently in the Mayawadi Central Police Station, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs confirmed. Foreign Minister Ali Sabri said in Parliament today that they will be brought to the island speedily. Minister Bandula Gunawardena says that 50 electric buses will be added to operation before the forthcoming Sinhala and Tamil New Year. These buses are comprised with several modern technologies. 447 SLTB bus accidents have occurred in the year 2022 and 57 persons have died. More than 200 persons were injured. 1,300 accidents have occurred by private sector buses. Therefore, he said that SLTB private joint timetable will be implemented within 2 months period. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. We continue with the local stories. In addition to the officials and categories of individuals required to disclose their assets and liabilities as outlined in the amended Declaration of Assets and Liabilities Law, No. 1 of 1975 by Act No. 74 of 1988, Section 80 of the Anti-Corruption Act No. 9 of 2023 introduces provisions for further disclosure by various other officials and categories of individuals. The necessity for disclosing liabilities is emphasized. According to this recent amendment, the President, Prime Minister, Members of Parliament, Provincial Governors, Provincial Council members and officers of the Provincial Public Service, elected representatives and officers of local government bodies, as well as judges and government officials appointed by the President, are mandated to disclose their assets and liabilities. This requirement extends to members and officers of ministries and government departments, as well as individuals appointed under Article 41A(1)(e) of the Constitution who are not members of Parliament. Manager of visa in the country, Avanti Kolambage, says that tourism industry has been directed to a new development path due to releasing visas by many countries. Free visa facilities have been released by China, India, Indonesia, Russia, Thailand, Malaysia and Japan to foreign tourists. It has been reported that more than 15% of tourists have visited from Russia. 400,000 tourists have arrived in the country during the past 2 months. To conclude the local news, the headlines again. A decision should be taken to fill the existing teacher vacancies in schools. A midday meal program for primary school children will be implemented from this month. It has been requested not to send persons to Myanmar based on open visa. Minister Bandula Gunawardena says that 50 electric buses will be added for operation before the forthcoming Sinhala and Tamil New Year. Declaration of Assets and Liabilities Law to be amended. 400,000 tourists have arrived in the country during the past 2 months. That came to you in the local segment of news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
And on the main news story, Secretary to the Ministry of Fisheries, Kumudini Somaratna, says that discussions should be conducted between the governments of India and Sri Lanka to solve the fisheries issues between the two nations. She also said that a request has been made by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to organize necessary discussions in this regard. That was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight, Director General of Irrigation A. Gunasekara has requested the general public to use water sparingly. The temperature in some areas have been increased, exceeding 36 Celsius. Currently, water level of reservoirs have been reducing. That came to you in Watchlight.
Coming up, World News.
Headlines of the world news. WHO says the children starving to death in northern Gaza. China sets ambitious 2024 economic target. Haiti gangs demand Prime Minister resign after mass jailbreak. Children are dying of starvation in northern Gaza, the World Health Organization or the WHO chief says. Tedros Adhanom said the agency's visits over the weekend to the Al-Wada and Kamal Adwan hospitals were the first since early October. In a post on social media, he spoke of grim findings. A lack of food resulted in the deaths of 10 children and severe levels of malnutrition, while hospital buildings have been destroyed, he wrote. The Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza reported on Sunday that at least 15 children had died from malnutrition and dehydration at the Kamal Adwan hospital. China has set an ambitious growth target of around 5% for this year as it outlined a series of measures aimed at boosting its flagging economy. Premier Li Qiang made the announcement at the opening of the annual National People's Congress today. Mr. Li acknowledged that China's economic performance had faced difficulties, adding that many of these had yet to be resolved. It comes as China struggles to reinvigorate its once blooming economy. Risks and potential dangers in real estate, local government debt and small and medium financial institutions were acute in some areas, he said. Haiti's government declared a 72-hour state of emergency on Sunday after armed gangs stormed a major prison. At least 12 people were killed and about 3,700 inmates escaped in the jailbreak. Gang leaders are demanding the resignation of Prime Minister Ariel Henry, whose whereabouts are unknown since he traveled to Kenya. Gangs control around 80% of the capital, Port-au-Prince. Gang violence has plagued Haiti for years. A government statement said 2 prisons, one in Port-au-Prince and the other in nearby Croix-de-Bouquet, were stormed over the weekend. To end the world news, the headlines again. Children starving to death in northern Gaza, says WHO. China sets ambitious 2024 economic target. Haiti gangs demand Prime Minister resign after mass jailbreak. That came to you in the world news.
Development news.
Over to the development news. State Minister Janaka Wakkumbara says that long-term and short-term programs will be implemented in the Akurana town to flood control in the area. Illegal construction at the Akurana Pradesh Sabha will be removed. 134 such constructions have already been identified. That came to you in the development news.
Moving on with sports news.
Another sports news, Chairman of the Sri Lanka Cricket Selection Committee Upul Taranga says that attention will be focused on experienced players to select reserve for the T20 World Championship Cricket Tournament to be held in June this year. That was the sports news.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
And on the business news, the SLT Group's financial results for the fourth quarter and financial year ending December 31st, 2023 reflects a downturn in performance amid a turbulent macroeconomic environment in the country. For fourth quarter last year, SLT Group reported a year-on-year consolidated revenue degrowth of 7.5%, amounting to 26 billion rupees compared to 28 billion rupees in 2022. The group's profits decline was attributed to reduced revenue despite the efforts of cost optimization measures that resulted in a 5.9% reduction in operating expenses. That came to you in business news.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
And on the economic news, the Consumer Affairs Authority says that the prices of eggs should be maintained at 50 rupees or lower than that. The production expenditure of eggs is between 25 to 30 rupees. But the price of eggs sold at the market is 60 to 70 rupees. This is an unfair earning of income. More eggs will be imported from India to meet the demand at the forthcoming festive season. That was the economic news.
Weather report.
And finally, we take a look at the weather report. Showers or thunder showers may occur at a few places in the Kalutara, Ratnapura, Gaul and Mathura districts in the evening or at night. Mainly dry weather will prevail elsewhere in the island. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the western and Sabaragamu provinces during the morning hours. That came to you in the weather report. And to end this bulletin of news, we take a look at the headlines again. A decision should be taken to fill the existing teacher vacancies in schools. A midday meal program for primary school children will be implemented from this month. It has been requested not to send persons to Myanmar based on open visa. Minister Bandula Gunawardena says that 50 electric buses will be added for operation before the forthcoming Sinhala and Tamil New Year. Declaration of Assets and Liabilities Law to be amended. 400,000 tourists have arrived in the country during the past 2 months. WHO says that children starving to death in northern Gaza. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation with the time reading 29 minutes down 1. I hand over to my colleague and friend Victor Raj to keep you entertained.